Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. Ron DeSantis's culture war on steroids continues. If the Martha's Vineyard migrant stunt of last week wasn't enough, now reports are coming out that DeSantis actually tried to do the same thing and left 20 migrants stranded in Texas. This is from Rolling Stone, based on a Miami Herald report. Migrants promised a flight to Delaware were instead abandoned at a motel. A source close to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis claimed the trip was canceled, leaving desperate asylum seekers stranded in order to, quote, punk the media. A second group of Texas migrants have been left scrambling to find resources after allegedly being offered transportation by the Florida government. In what was set to be a repeat of last week's potentially illegal stunt that left 50 migrants stranded in Martha's Vineyard, asylum seekers who were told they would be flown to Delaware were held for days in a San Antonio motel before being told their flight was ultimately canceled, the Miami Herald reported Wednesday. Despite Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' office claiming the media fell for, quote, disinformation about the flight's existence, preparations for it were well underway before a last-minute cancellation once again left migrants in dire straits. Migrants abandoned at a La Quinta motel near downtown San Antonio described similar experiences to that of the migrants flown to Martha's Vineyard by DeSantis, namely in that they were approached outside the San Antonio Migrants Resource Center, where staff has urged caution about offers of transportation and jobs by an unidentified woman offering them spots on free flights and promising more resources and support in other communities. The migrants who accepted the flights were reportedly held in the motel for several days while organizers recruited more passengers and experience that echoes that of those taken to Martha's Vineyard. They were told the night before the scheduled flight that they were being sent to Delaware until a last-minute notice was given that the flight would not be taking place. In accepting the proposition from DeSantis' operatives, many migrants had given up their place at the Migrant Resource Center, where shelter stays are limited to 3 days, and were now effectively homeless. Quote, she said there would be work, migrant Pedro Escalona told the Miami Herald. She said that they would get us there and then there would be help. Escalona indicated that he had an immigration hearing scheduled in October in Washington, D.C., and accepted the offer of a flight with a last-minute destination, hoping it would get him closer to D.C. When the flight was ultimately canceled, a bus was brought to transport them back to the Migrant Resource Center, where it was unclear if returning residents would be granted shelter. Organizers of the flight did not notify the migrants the bus would be coming and were not clear about its destination, resulting in several migrants being stranded at the hotel. You know, politics often is covered as almost like sport. You know, who's up, who's down, how does it play to the base? Can we just call this what it is? This is cruelty at its worst. Whatever you think, whatever you think of the border problems in this country, and there are border problems in this country, whatever you think of our immigration policy, whether you think it's too lax, whether you think it's, too rigid, Ron DeSantis is literally just weaponizing human beings for his never-ending culture war and exploiting and, in my view, abusing these people who are fleeing, in many cases, desperate situations, volatile situations, just the worst conditions in some of the countries that we, the United States, have destroyed, have traveled God knows how many miles here. And he's basically toying with these people to make a political point that who the hell knows if he even believes in it. Because like Trump, I don't even know if he believes in half of what he does. You're basically under false premises, manipulating people, migrants who don't know any better, many of them might not even have known what happened at Martha's Vineyard, what DeSantis had done, to basically move, give up their position at the Migrant Resources Center, which is shelter, on the hope, on the promise and manipulation that, oh, we're sending you to Delaware where you're going to have a lot of resources, jobs, and we'll get you one step closer to the American dream. And we're putting you in a nice motel until the flight. The flight was canceled because it leaked that he was doing this. That's why he canceled the flight. It was leaked days earlier that DeSantis was trying to do the Martha's Vineyard stunt outside of Biden's home in Delaware. And then many of these migrants are left stranded. They've had their spot probably taken at the Migrant Resources Center, therefore being homeless. I mean, this is disgusting. It is vile cruelty. The media obviously was focused on Trump separating children, and Republicans, didn't seem to have a problem with that cruelty. Well, Ron DeSantis seems like he's trying to take a page out of Trump's book and, best him at who could be the biggest douchebag to, brown people or Hispanic people, Venezuelans, migrants. It's just vile. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything legally that could be done, but this is going to continue. And honestly, I see DeSantis, possibly other Republican governors, Republican, activist groups, probably right-wing media that want to jump in, trying to one-up the previous stunt. And it's real people, real human beings are being toyed with for this. So, kudos to Ron DeSantis, who, by the way, on all of this, he's very proud. He's very proud of what he's doing, if you could even believe that. Let's take a look.
We do. So it's chaotic. It's not the way you do business. Now everybody is talking about it. And look, they're busing to New York City, D.C., all this stuff. And that's not the solution, though. The solution is to recognize the policy has failed and to change the policy. And you could do that very easily in ways that have been proven to work. So hopefully we're going to be talking about this a lot more now. This was not an issue of concern even 2 weeks ago. Now it seems to be on the front burner, so we're proud of that.
Very proud of this. By the way, Florida doesn't have a migrant crisis. Florida's border is Georgia and Alabama. There's not an influx of undocumented immigrants or asylum seekers storming Florida. So Ron DeSantis, for a problem that didn't exist, just like the problem that didn't exist in classrooms where LGBTQ and gender identity is not being taught or discussed, just like critical race theory is not being taught or discussed in Florida schools, just like math textbooks do not contain critical race theory. He is inventing problems that don't exist. He's doing this to, I guess, try to move even further right than Trump. It's whoever could become more extreme in today's Republican Party, and migrants are the ones who will suffer. And this whole punk the media, okay, congrats, you punked the media and basically left migrants homeless. I hope you sleep well at night. Well, at least the migrants that were victims of what I believe is human trafficking are fighting back. Migrants flown to Martha's Vineyard have filed a lawsuit against DeSantis. Let's go into that. A civil rights law firm filed a federal class action lawsuit on Tuesday against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and others for transporting around 50 immigrants from San Antonio, Texas to Martha's Vineyard without shelter or resources in place. The firm, Lawyers for Civil Rights, in conjunction with the migrant-led nonprofit Alianza Americas, filed the suit on behalf of the, quote, vineyard migrants and all similarly situated people who were fraudulently induced to travel across state lines by DeSantis and the state of Florida, the group told NPR. In addition to Governor DeSantis, the lawsuit also named the state of Florida, Florida Department of Transportation Secretary Jared Perdue, and their accomplices as defendants. The legal action comes after last Wednesday when nearly 50 migrants were taken on planes from San Antonio to Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts with a stop in Florida in between They arrive with no warning, and the local community scramble to provide food, shelter, and translation services. Alianza America's executive director, Oscar Chacon, said that DeSantis used the migrants to, quote, advance a hate-filled agenda. That is why we have taken the steps to legally challenge what we view as not only a morally reprehensible action, but what we believe is illegal. Attorneys want DeSantis and his fellow defendants to be banned from, quote, inducing immigrants to travel across state lines by fraud and misrepresentation, as well as damages, quote, for the harm suffered by the migrants. On Monday, Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar said in a news release that his office is investigating whether the migrants were victims of crimes. This is in Texas. The Bexar County Sheriff's Office has opened an investigation into the migrants that were lured from the Migrant Resources Center located in Bexar County, Texas, and flown to Florida, where they were ultimately left to fend for themselves in Martha's Vineyard. Yeah, I think for DeSantis, he views the more lawsuits, the better. Like Trump, who has much worse legal problems right now, I think DeSantis views this as, hey, he could run on, I'm fighting for you, and therefore they're trying to come after me, but I'm fighting the good fight to keep our borders tight, to keep America, what it's always been, to stop America from being taken over by these invaders, as Tucker Carlson likes to call them. No racism there, though, according to Glenn Greenwald. It's just obscene. I would like to know, I'd be curious. To me, the fact that these migrants were brought over state lines under false premises does seem to me to be some form of trafficking. And if it could be proven that the people who were involved soliciting these migrants were linked to DeSantis, which I think it can be, it seems like there would be some type of criminal case against him. But as we know, with most of these things, that could be bogged down in courts for a long time, well past the 2024 election, which, as of now, if certain chips fall with Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis is very likely to be your Republican nominee. And Ron DeSantis versus Joe Biden, I believe Ron DeSantis, unfortunately for all of us, that would be the choice, the two of them. I think Ron DeSantis could beat Joe Biden. But legal chickens are coming home to roost against DeSantis in other areas, too. DeSantis is also about to face trial for suspension of a prosecutor who defied his abortion law in Florida. Andrew Warren, a Democrat, sued Florida governor for the suspension after saying he would not enforce DeSantis' new 15-week abortion law. A Florida prosecutor suspended by Ron DeSantis for defying a new 15-week abortion law says a federal judge's decision to send his reinstatement appeal to trial means a reckoning is coming for the state's Republican governor. Andrew Warren, a Democrat, was removed as Hillsborough County state attorney on August 4th after saying he would not enforce the abortion ban or prosecute providers of gender transition treatment for young people. DeSantis cited Warren's alleged, quote, woke agenda in reasons for his decision. At a hearing in Tallahassee on Monday, Judge Robert Hinkle denied motions from DeSantis to dismiss Warren's lawsuit and another by Warren seeking an immediate return to office, instead requesting their differences be settled in a trial in the coming weeks. Quote, the governor now has to answer it to a court of law where facts matter and where you have to tell the truth, Warren said in an interview with The Guardian. It's a victory for truth. A federal judge has ruled that the governor has to come into court to explain the reasons behind my suspension, to show that it wasn't political, to show that it wasn't in violation of my free speech rights, to show that it wasn't in violation of the voters' rights to have the state attorney of their choice. The closely watched case is expected to give clarity to DeSantis' power to purge elected officials who disagree with him. You ever hear of something called fascism? So we'll see. Between the cruelty, the punking media, the right wing, honestly, it's this merry-go-round. The media was pushing DeSantis, doing puff pieces about him, calling him a more acceptable, effective version of Trump without the headache. Then Trump got raided and the pendulum swung back to Trump. It seems like the base rallied around Trump and DeSantis, was losing steam. And I think that's why DeSantis is pulling these stunts, because he's trying to continue positioning himself as the alternative to Trump. So the crueler, the better. But these are real people's lives being destroyed. And let's not forget, we were on the ground. It's not just migrants that Ron DeSantis and his cruelty and culture wars is affecting. It's LGBTQ people in Florida. It's LGBTQ families in Florida. It's transgender people he's coming after, their parents. It's black people with his Stop Woke Act shenanigans and critical race theory. So he's going after basically anyone that doesn't look like a Fox News viewer, essentially it. So we should not ignore the danger that is Ron DeSantis. It doesn't mean the Democratic Party is good, but Ron DeSantis is, in my view, just as dangerous, if not more, than Donald Trump. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.